trade war between the United States and China keeps ratcheting up. There are reports tonight China has suspended exports of rare earth minerals.
It's hard to predict how this will shake out, but it's looking increasingly like the goal for the U.S. is to reorient global trade away from China.
I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, because I told them if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate.
This is insane. Pro-democracy banners are popping up in China because Chinese citizens are unhappy with Xi Jinping. All the while, Trump is doubling down on his tariff plan. United States just announced that it will be increasing tariffs on Chinese products to 245%. I think this might be the highest tariff we have ever put on any country in the history of the United States. So, why is Trump increasing the tariff again? The answer is simple. It's because CCP is retaliating. And the sad part of all of this is that the people who are actually suffering the most are the average Chinese citizens. That's exactly why we are seeing more and more protests happening all over China. So let's talk about all this in today's video, starting with the CCP propaganda. As some of you guys may already know, CCP bots are on every platform to push pro-CCP narrative and downvote anything that criticizes the communist government. That's why if you guys can do me a quick favor and hit that like and subscribe button down below, it really does help out the video tremendously, and I truly apologize for asking so much. Now let's start with the video. Let's talk about first what was China's retaliation. Now, much like previous retaliation, this time Chinese attack was multi-pronged. But one of the biggest thing they did was ban their rare earth exports to the United States. This was CCP's attempt to strangle the US economy. Here's more details.
Like I said, China has halted the export of these metals to the US. It's a move that could cripple US businesses. What are rare earth metals? These are a group of 17 elements in the periodic table. Most of them have really weird names, like europium or holmium or scandium. As weird as they sound, they're pretty important. You need rare earths to make a number of crucial products like semiconductors, electric vehicle motors, fighter jets, and missiles, wind turbines, and even your LED lights. Basically, these are metals of the future. And where does China come in? Well, China dominates rare earth production. China makes up 70% of all rare earth output. They also make up 90% of rare earth magnets. These are magnets made from rare earth metals. They're key to making EVs. Now, this dominance is not an accident. China identified the importance of rare earths back in the 1990s. First, they put tight controls on the deposits. Rare earths were declared as strategic and protected reserves. Then China invested in processing technology. Like all ores, rare earth has to be extracted and processed. And China took the lead in doing that. And since then, there's been no looking back.
Exactly, they saw an opening in 1990s and took it. But what was this opening? This wasn't some monopoly that China had where only Chinese land had rare earths. No. In fact, if you go to your backyard and just dig up some dirt, it's highly likely that you'll find some rare earth. So the name is definitely a little misleading. That's what we named them when we first found them, and the name has just stuck. But the way China built up this monopoly was through refining and not necessarily just digging up rare earth. You see, if you dig up just, let's say, 1 pound of dirt, you'll probably have some rare earth. But to refine that rare earth, you likely produce gallons and gallons of toxic waste. Now that's the type of waste that you regulate because you don't want companies just dumping it in a river or a lake. That would hurt the civilian population. That's why Western governments have a lot of regulation relating to how to take care of the waste. And that's what raises the price for refining in Western countries. But in China, they didn't care as much. They were happy to take in as much business as they could get. And slowly, China was pretty much the only country that was willing to refine rare earths. And that's exactly how China built up the monopoly. Now, of course, this dependence is problematic, but it's not the end of the world. Because if you think about it, pretty much much every country in the world is gonna need these minerals. So that means there's enough demand for other countries to come in and say, hey, I can fill that demand, I can loosen my regulations. That way businesses in my country could refine rare earths and we can get some business, we can grow our economy. Now in the short term, of course, this is going to take some time. That means there will be some supply chain issues, but in the long term, other countries will fulfill this demand. And if no country steps up, or if no country that we are willing to partner with steps up, at the end of the day, the Western countries, Western governments will loosen their regulation to get this industry off the ground. At the end of the day, we did not ship out the refining industry because we couldn't do it. We shipped it out because we didn't want to do it. And now, based on today's executive order that President Trump signed, it seems we may be changing our mind when it comes to regulating this industry. Now, of course, this doesn't mean there's going to be no regulation. I think we'll probably head in a direction where regulations will become a little bit relaxed. Here's the details on the executive order. Today, President Trump signed an executive order launching an investigation into the national security risk posed by U.S. reliance on imported processed critical minerals and their derivative products. The investigation will culminate in a report detailing risk, providing recommendations to strengthen domestic production, reduce dependence on foreign suppliers, and enhance economic and national security. So based on this report, it seems we're going to be heading towards relaxing regulation. And I also predict that more and more countries that are not China will step up now to fill this demand. Because again, the demand for these minerals will only grow every single year, likely every single month. So it's a lot of money just sitting there, and market forces will just guarantee that there are going to be other companies who will now step up and fill this demand. But while we're on this executive order, let me show you something interesting that was printed here. They made no announcement of this, and it seems that Trump almost doubled the tariff that he announced on China. Let me show you. Here, if we come down, we can see that more than 75 countries have already reached out to discuss new trade deals. As a result, the individualized higher tariffs are currently paused amid these discussions, except for China, which retaliated. China now faces up to 245% tariff on imports to the United States as a result of its retaliation. So that's something that's definitely new. And again, I don't know how much difference 145 to 245 is going to make, because the numbers are so high that the trade between two countries is going to pretty much disappear. And the people who are suffering the most are the Chinese citizens, because the factories in China are closing down, and some of these workers are not even getting the paycheck for their last month of work because factory owners are going bankrupt. That's exactly why we are actually seeing more and more protests pop up in Chinese city. The most shocking one I have seen are these banners that were hung in the Chengdu city in China. Hear what the banner said. Wow, pro-democracy banners hung from a bridge in China. No national rejuvenation without political reform. Democracy is the direction. Foreigners do not understand the courage it takes to do this. Definitely. In China, they have one camera for every 2 person. And might I remind you guys, they have 1.4 billion people. That means they have more than 700 million cameras all around Chinese cities. They can find anyone anywhere. So people who are hanging these are taking a great risk. And like the tweet says, nobody suffers more at the hands of the CCP than the Chinese people. The most ironic part of this is also the fact that the city it happened in, Chengdu, the same city that CCP brings in all the TikTok influencers to show them the propaganda tour of how well the communist government is doing in China. Chengdu is the same city that TikTok influencers from the US always ooh and ah and tell everyone that they don't know the real China. So here's a reminder that just like any other country, the real version of itself has many versions. The difference is, in an authoritarian country, people aren't allowed to openly criticize the versions of a country that the government doesn't want you to see. But every so often, we get reminders that there's a whole lot going on beneath the surface that people stay silent on. And as we said earlier, it does take a lot of courage to do this in China, and unfortunately, it seems that the protester was arrested. The protester behind this bold act shared a photo of the scene before he was forcibly disappeared, if you know what I mean. He revealed that he had spent an entire year preparing for this moment, determined that it be seen and remembered no matter the cost. His final words before all contact was lost were, "All I wish for is democracy in China." If I were to guess, much like the Tank Man, I don't think we're ever going to hear from him again. But unfortunately for the CCP, The Chinese people are truly suffering and they're finally voicing their concerns. They're finally voicing their displeasure with the government. Here we have another clip of a workers' protest happening in Nanjing City of China. This was from April 8th, so just a week ago. Now this report is originally in Chinese, so I'm using Google Translate to translate it into English. So apparently this protest was happening because the Volkswagen factory is shutting down, which has been in operation for 16 years. And now it's shutting down with workers having some issues with their salary. If I were to guess, they're probably not getting paid. And the worst part of it all, this is not the only Volkswagen factory that's going to be shutting down. In fact, in December 2024, Volkswagen announced that it will be shutting down all the factories one after another. This situation is the perfect example of the problem that the CCP is facing right now. You see, it's not just the tariff that CCP has to deal with. The Chinese economy was struggling way before Trump came into office. We've been covering that for last few years. First, we had the real estate bubble that popped, then we had the deflationary spiral, then we had the mismanagement that Xi Jinping did with his zero COVID policy, and on top of that, to top it all off, we now have Trump tariffs. Chinese economy cannot sustain all this at a single time. It's just too much to manage. And on top of that, Xi Jinping is deciding to fight back. All the while, people from his administration are telling the Chinese people, the Chinese citizens, that they should eat grass, all the while CCP is trying to fight with the United States. I don't think Chinese people will put up with this. Here we have a Chinese businessman explaining the precarious situation that every Chinese business is in right now. He does it way better than I ever could. So let's listen.
I really can't stand it anymore these past 2 days. Stop talking about raising tariffs. We're not in some hot-blooded script where we go head-to-head just for pride. Acting tough is a dead end. Making money is the real deal. The U.S. has 350 million people and controls 1/3 of global consumption. Do you know what that means? It means out of every $3 spent in the world, one comes from an American. The EU, with 450 million people, doesn't even match a fraction of that. We, with our 1.4 billion people, are grinding day and night to manufacture goods. Yet our consumption power is only 1/5 of the U.S. The numbers are right there. Yelling about how America is being a bully doesn't put food on the table. The dollars in their wallets are global business. It's the world's passport for trade. All the people shouting, "We don't need the U.S. market." Wake up. You try selling goods in Southeast Asia? You get paid in ringgit. Sell in South America? You get pesos. The exchange rate alone can bleed you dry. Sell to the U.S.? You're earning dollars. Despite the war in Ukraine dragging on like this, the U.S. dollar still sits firmly on the throne as the world's reserve currency. That's reality. Without access to the dollar system, you're not even allowed into the game of international trade. Don't give me that pivot to Asia and Africa talk. How's Africa going to buy your appliances when many places don't even have electricity? India looks promising, but they'll delay payments until you go bankrupt. Only the U.S., with its 300+ million middle-class citizens, is sitting there with cash in hand, waiting. No tricks, no I owe us. Even with sanctions in place these past 2 years, it's still the cleanest, most reliable market in the world. Compared to those places where bribes and kickbacks are the norm, the U.S. is basically business heaven. And here's something you need to remember. Capital is smarter than you. Whether it's sovereign funds from the Middle East, oil money, or pension funds from various countries, all that money floods into the U.S. stock market. You think those countries don't want to act tough too? But the truth is, without the U.S., the global consumption engine, your products don't even have the chance to be sold at a loss just to make noise. Count on Russia, on aging markets. They're all selling off resources just to keep breathing. It's easy to curse American hegemony. What's hard is recognizing the truth. The global supply chain is built on one thing. Whoever holds the purchasing power is the boss. The U.S. holds 1/20th of the world's population, but soaks up 1/3 of the world's consumption. That's absolute market dominance. You can call it domineering, but you can't deny reality. When 70% of your manufacturing relies on exports and 80% of your foreign reserves come from trade, losing access to the U.S. market means cutting off your own income stream. To those who shout they'd rather not earn American money, listen up. Ordinary people need to eat, companies need to pay salaries, and the state needs to collect reserves. If you play hardball with the U.S. and it turns into mutual destruction, who suffers in the end? It's the factory workers, the small business owners, the regular folks whose livelihoods depend on exports. In the face of overwhelming market power, posturing is the biggest stupidity of all. If you need to bow your head at the negotiation table, then bow. If you need to offer concessions, then offer them. Right now, keeping the rice bowl is more important than anything else. I may just be a random high schooler, but in the business world, there's no such thing as dignity, only supply and demand. The U.S. market scale speaks louder than any slogan. Instead of yelling about fighting back, think about how to earn money under their rules. Once your pockets are full of dollars, then you can talk about upgrading your industries and moving away from the dollar. Until then, it's all just nonsense. Bowing your head to earn money isn't shameful, but betting ordinary people's lives on some misplaced sense of pride, that's the real foolishness. In my narrow opinion, if it means everyday folks can live better, even earning money on your knees is no big deal.
YouTube is growing so fast that it has just overtaken Netflix to become the most popular app on TV. That's just on TV, by the way. If you combine TV, phones, computers, tablets, people are spending an insane amount of time watching YouTube. This is exactly why YouTube is paying creators $45,000 per minute. That's $64 million every single day. So, if you have ever thought about starting a YouTube channel for yourself, now is the perfect time. And if you're looking to learn how people grow on YouTube in 2025, like this guy who got millions of views in just few months of starting a channel, then I have a solution for you. This weekend, I'm holding a free bootcamp for beginners where I will share all our YouTube advice and answer any question you have about growing on YouTube. If you're interested in learning from this bootcamp, you can sign up by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on your screen. It seems like even with messages like these, CCP is not backing down. Just this morning, as I'm recording this, CCP announced that they will be retaliating even more. They have banned Chinese companies, Chinese airlines, from buying any Boeing jets. Here's more details on this.
That's right. Bloomberg is reporting this morning that China has ordered its airlines to halt deliveries of Boeing jets and all aircraft-related parts, causing shares of the company to drop 4.6% in pre-market trading. That followed the announcement. This order will block about 10 747 MAX airline jets from entering Chinese fleets. China's retaliatory tariff of 125% on American goods made purchases impractical, more than doubling the cost, according to this report. Meantime, Beijing is looking for ways to assist the Chinese airlines that lease the Boeing jets. This news comes as President Trump is announcing he's considering a pause for auto tariffs. Last week, he said no such exceptions were under consideration, but he also cautioned that he will stay flexible.
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
Now, of course, the CCP state media is not sharing all this information with the Chinese citizens because think about how that would look. Every other country that's not retaliating is getting deals on top of deals. They're getting their tariffs cut down. They're able to negotiate a better deal compared to the Liberation Day tariffs that Trump announced. And on top of that, now we have an announcement that even the car tariffs will be at least brought down. We don't have the details yet, but that's what it seems like from Trump's statement. Now, this is not something Chinese state media is showing to the Chinese citizens, because then they will start questioning their government's decisions even more. So what is Chinese state media showing to their citizens? Well, fake videos about how there's a stampede going on in US supermarkets because US citizens are rushing to get their Chinese products so badly before stores run out. Here's the details, and it's a complete lie, so it's just so laughable. They quickly got exposed for this too, but of course, CCP being CCP, they blocked all the videos exposing the state media. Recently, CCTV News and other Chinese official media reported that due to upcoming reciprocal tariffs on April 9th, local residents rushed to supermarkets to grab goods in fear of soaring prices, and Americans set off a wave of stockpiling. The videos you guys are seeing on the side of your screen, well, those are the videos from Black Friday in 2018. So, they're using fake videos or old videos to give a feeling to the Chinese citizens that America is collapsing, they're struggling just as much as China. But in reality, I don't think many people even notice that the Chinese products are going up in price, at least not yet. All the while, Chinese workers are literally protesting on the streets. But anyways, getting back to the report, it seems CCP got exposed very quickly. However, videos shot by several local Chinese showed that the situation reported by Chinese official media did not appear in the videos. On April 7th, Tommy, who lives in Los Angeles, went to a supermarket near his home. He said, "It should be a small probability event that was exaggerated. This supermarket has a lot of Chinese-made products and no one rushed to buy them. It was same as usual." Another Chinese person living in Seattle filmed a Costco supermarket near his home. He said, "TikTok is all nonsense. These bastards are really good at talking nonsense." So yeah, CCP is panicking and they're spreading propaganda, fake videos on American social media just to fight back. So if you guys can help us out a little bit and maybe share this video with just one person, because that way you're helping us counteract the CCP propaganda.